The Egghead War is well and underway in One Piece, and from here onwards, the story is only going to get more interesting. With each passing chapter, the intensity of Egghead Island arc has risen more, and fans expect that to be kept up in One Piece 1093 as well. In the previous chapter, a lot of intriguing plot points were tackled by Oda, and surprisingly, Kuma was also among them. At the same time, fans also got to see Luffy fight Kizaru, which is something everyone has been waiting to witness for quite a while now. Another incredible shock was delivered at the end of the chapter, when the Iron Giant finally awakened. All these things will most definitely be expanded upon in One Piece chapter 1093, and fans are incredibly excited about that. Gear 5 Luffy vs Kizaru. One Piece chapter 1093 is most definitely going to focus on Luffy vs Kizaru once again. In the previous chapter, these two started fighting, and it was certainly even for the most part. Luffy used his Snakeman form to tackle the incredible might of Kizaru. In the end, it was the Admiral who got the last laugh as he used his incredible speed to deliver a powerful kick to the Yonko, which also ended up destroying the Vega Force. Luffy immediately realized that he had to step up to the next level if he wanted to take down Kizaru, and, at the end of the chapter, that is precisely why he tapped into the power of Gear 5. Fans know Gear 5 to be an incredible power that Luffy can use to defeat almost anyone. This is the ability that aided him in defeating Kaido, and it is the same power that is going to help him triumph over Kizaru as well. At the end of the chapter, Luffy used the power of Gear 5 to turn himself into a giant and grab Kizaru as if he were a doll. This fight is going to continue from here onwards, and fans are extremely excited to see what direction this clash takes. Now that Luffy is free, fans can expect to see ridiculous things from him being pulled off in the fight. His fighting style is now going to be very unpredictable, and even for Kizaru, who is a very skilled fighter, this is going to be very difficult to deal with. Kizaru's awakening. With Luffy tapping into his Gear 5, fans can expect him to take an advantage in this battle. Luffy is the stronger of the two, and that goes without saying. However, Kizaru is certainly not a weak character. He is strong enough to fight against Luffy and hold his own, and fans will certainly see that in One Piece chapter 1093. That said, Gear 5 should give Luffy an overwhelming advantage, just as Kizaru was able to overpower Snakeman in the previous chapter. This means Kizaru will have to level up his skill if he is to fight against Luffy's Gear 5 on an equal footing. This is precisely where Devil Fruit Awakening comes in. Fans know Kizaru to be a character who relies on his Devil Fruit quite a lot. He has also held his power for years upon years. For him to have awakened his Devil Fruit is not something too far-fetched. If he truly has awakened his incredible light Devil Fruit, then fans might get to see it being revealed in One Piece 1093. If that indeed is the case, then the next chapter would be the very first one where fans get to see a Logia awakening. The awakening of these devil fruits has largely been kept under the wraps, and it is time that Oda explained to the fans what they do and how powerful they truly are. Seeing the awakening of the Pika Pika Nomi would immediately raise the stakes of this fight to an even higher level, and that is something that fans would definitely enjoy witnessing in the story. Zoro vs Lucci. One Piece chapter 1093 could also focus on the fight between Zoro and Lucci. As fans know, chapter 1091 saw to it that Zoro attacked Lucci right after he attempted an assassination of Vegapunk. Zoro immediately went in with two swords and pushed Lucci out of the building. This fight was not focused on at all in the previous chapter, and that could be remedied by One Piece chapter 1093. Zoro and Lucci are both incredibly capable fighters, and a clash between these two would be extremely fun for the fans to witness. This is especially true given that they also clashed momentarily in Water 7, and Zoro ended up being on the losing end at the time. This would be his time to get revenge and defeat Lucci for good. This clash is one that fans are incredibly excited to witness, and they can only hope that One Piece chapter 1093 focuses on it a bit more. While this clash is certainly not the focus of the arc at the moment, it can't prove to be a surprising one, given the capabilities of both fighters. Zoro vs Lucci could give fans a look at the King of Hell 3 sword style once again and, at the same time, see the latter tap into the powers of Devil Fruit Awakening once again. Against Luffy, Lucci could not show the full extent of his capabilities since he was completely outclassed. Against Zoro, however, the battlefield is going to be much more even and, thus, he will have an opportunity to showcase his abilities. The Iron Giant awakens. Quite easily the most most significant part of One Piece chapter 1092 was the awakening of the Iron Giant. While fans might be confused as to how this happened, it appears that Luffy's heartbeat, the drums of liberation, was the key to awakening this giant. This leaves the question as to why the giant did not awaken for the first time. However, at that time, Luffy did not take on the appearance of a giant itself. As such, the heartbeat was not able to get to the Iron Giant. When Luffy took to a gigantic form, the heartbeat would, naturally, be much louder and channeled throughout the entirety of the Leba phase. This meant the heartbeat got to the Iron Giant as well, and ended up awakening it. One Piece chapter 1093 will most likely showcase the Iron Giant moving once again. What exactly the giant will do from here onwards is not quite clear, and it also remains to be seen who can command it. At the moment, the most likely answer to that question would be Luffy. If Luffy were to command the giant to help them destroy the Navy fleet and escape Egghead Island, then the giant would do just that. This opens up a very intriguing possibility in the Egghead Island arc and would spell a major defeat for the Navy and, by extension, the world government. And in other news, One Piece. Kizaru vs. Snakeman Luffy explained. One Piece is currently in its Egghead Island arc, and this incredible arc has only continued to get better. Fans did not expect this story arc to be as big as it has become, especially given that it followed a major arc in Wano, which lasted for over 4 years. Oda took a very bold step in making Egghead such a major arc, and it is safe to say that this section of the manga has succeeded in blowing all the fans away. Some of the biggest clashes in One Piece have been witnessed in this arc, and they also include the ongoing fight between Luffy and Kizaru. In the previous chapter of One Piece, these two characters were seen going at it, as was expected after Luffy launched a powerful attack at him. However, much to the surprise of the fans, Luffy tapped into the power of Snakeman to deal with Kizaru's threat, which most fans did not expect to see. What is Snakeman? Snakeman is a powerful transformation that belongs to Luffy and is accessible to him via his incredible Gomu Gomu no Mi. This transformation is a part of his Gear 4th that he developed during the 2-year time skip while training with Rayleigh on Ruscana. To deal with the massive beasts on the island, Luffy had to develop powerful techniques, and he did just that with Gear 4th. Luffy's Go to Gear 4 transformation was definitely Bound Man fans know this form to be the most balanced of all. It offers Luffy great offensive power, and also gives him defensive cover, thanks to his incredible rubbery body. However, at times, Luffy ended up fighting against faster foes and more tricky enemies. For that purpose, he ended up creating a new form of Gear 4th called Snakeman. Snakeman is a powerful transformation that focuses more on speed than it does on anything else. This transformation is much leaner than his other Gear 4th transformations. The bulge is contained in his forearms, as well as his legs, while the rest of his body is quite lean and muscular. Contrary to Bounce Man, Snakeman actually does not bounce, even though the anime mistakenly shows it to bounce at times. This is an indication of the fact that the elasticity of Snakeman is not as high as Bounce Man. This also implies that damage is not bounced off of Snakeman's body like it bounces off Bound Man. Snakeman is not defensively as adept as Bounce Man, however. The speed that it offers is absolutely immense. The power of Snakeman lies in Luffy's Python. Luffy is able to launch both of his fists in the air, and he names them Pythons. They then go on to deflect off of midair somehow, and continue accelerating for as long as the attack is launched. The acceleration reaches a point where not even the fastest characters in One Piece can keep up. This ability debuted during his fight against Katakuri, and it certainly proved to be enough for Luffy to triumph over him. Why Luffy used Snakeman versus Kizaru? The question of why Luffy used Snakeman against Kizaru can be answered quite simply. Kizaru is one of the fastest men in the world of One Piece. He possesses a devil fruit that can turn him into light and, thus, allow him to travel at the speed of light and attack with the same power. As a result, for anyone to stand a chance against him, they need to be incredibly fast. For this reason, Luffy relied on the power of Snakeman at first. This power allowed him to match his speed to quite an extent. It was quite evident from the beginning of this fight that Luffy was keeping Kizaru at bay. He was seen launching powerful Python-based attacks on him and hitting him multiple times, which Kizaru was blocking using his incredible color of arms haki. Luffy took a chance by using Snakeman against him, and it certainly paid off, at least at the beginning. Despite having incredible speed, Kizaru was not able to do much against Luffy's Snakeman. All his attacks that he kept launching at him were either not hitting him or not doing much damage. The same could be said for Luffy as well. Where Snakeman excels in speed, it lacks in power and defensive capability. As such, Kizaru was not troubled too much by Luffy's attacks. Eventually, he was successful in getting away, and he managed to launch a powerful attack on the Yonko, which ended up blowing him away. How Snakeman fared versus Kizaru. Luffy's decision to use Snakeman against Kizaru was certainly a bold one. Whether he believed that he would be able to end the fight just with Snakeman, or if the strategy was something else entirely remains to be seen. However, it certainly proved to not be enough. While Snakeman did well to hold Kizaru off for a while, it got more difficult for Luffy to keep up when the Admiral sped up as the battle progressed and went far away from the island. He then launched himself as a powerful beam of light and ended up kicking Luffy at the speed of light, which blew him away and knocked him out of Snakeman by the looks of it. This kick was so powerful that it even ended up destroying Vegaforce in the process. It kicked Luffy out of the Frontier Dome, burning him in the process. This kick certainly did lasting damage and gave Kizaru the advantage in the fight. However, it must be noted that Luffy's Snakeman could have been much stronger if he so wished. For some strange reason, Luffy did not use the color of Supreme King with his Snakeman. All his attacks were devoid of this power. Instead, he relied on the basic color of arms, which was a rather strange decision from him. Had Luffy relied on the color of the Supreme King, then, perhaps, Kizaru would have taken much more damage just from Snakeman, and Luffy might not have even needed to enter Gear 5, which is something that he did later on as the fight progressed. Luffy's Gear 5 against Kizaru. Kizaru took immediate advantage in the fight after he kicked Luffy at the speed of light. He knocked him out of the Frontier Dome, and in the meanwhile, he was able to completely remove Bonnie from the battlefield as well. He then moved immediately right next to Vegapunk and was going to assassinate him. Right at this moment, however, Luffy returned to the battlefield. Having been knocked out of the Frontier Dome, Luffy crossed it once again and took great damage in doing so. Nonetheless, he immediately realized that he had no time to waste and jumped to his strongest transformation, that is, Gear 5. On the roof of the lab inside which Vegapunk was working to crack the code, Luffy took his giant Gear 5 form and grabbed Kizaru in his palm. As soon as he did that, it was quite clear that Luffy was now serious, and that this fight would only escalate from here onwards. With Gear 5, Luffy is expected to have a major advantage in this fight. Despite Kizaru being as fast as he is, he's not going to be able to keep up with the immense freedom that Gear 5 gives to Luffy. Thankfully, fans do not have to deal with a break next week, and the incredible fight between Luffy, who is in his Gear 5, and Kizaru, the powerful Marine Admiral who has blown everyone away in the previous chapter, will continue. That's a wrap for this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with more amazing videos very soon.